Ho ho ho! I think we're back, but I'm trying to make sure 100% that we are streaming. Sometimes I say this is streaming and then we're not actually streaming yet. Lost a couple things, a couple parts that should have been there because of that. There we go. Okay, we are live and streaming. You ready to do this? Alright, let's do this. Turnabout Legacy. We're in the latter part of the case. This is our first time streaming as husband and wife, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah, so a lot's happened since. Kind of busy. Alright, so let's see what we got here. Frost sculptures were scrumptious, except for the lyre, which was salty. This is quite the trophy. Awarded to Tangaroa, First Place International Confectioners Association Annual Spectacular. It's made of candy. I guess it wasn't meant to last forever. Makes sense. Prizes, fame, none of it lasts forever, right? I doubt it's anything quite that deep. Where does this elevator go? The second floor. Tangaroa and Bound live up there. Sounds like they live a pretty charmed life. Tea parties, candy making, that kind of thing. They even have a garden. Must be nice on a sunny day. That does sound nice. Perhaps they'll invite us when all this is over. You'd come, wouldn't you, detective? Don't get ahead of yourself now. I'm not in the habit of palling around with attorneys. These trophies all belong to Mr. Tangaroa, but they're not all for confectionery contests. Some appear to be for charity work. A testament to both his character and his professional achievements. What's this one here? In recognition of Bacon Bop's long-standing achievement in making children's dreams come true. That's so sweet. It's got me wanting to watch it. Skellen's room is through there. It's marked by a snowman. A candy snowman by the look of it. Oh yeah? Well, I'll be. He's really sizing it up. He isn't thinking of making that into his next lollipop, is he? Authorized personnel only beyond this point, I'm afraid. Meaning what? I'm not authorized. Sorry, sir, no authorized personnel either. So nobody's allowed in. Let me guess. Von Karma's orders. Guy's really starting to grind my gears. Miss Bound, we're here to continue our investigation. Oh. Yeah, I think so. Yep, she's 16. She's still looking kind of down at the dumps, Mr. E. She must have been greatly taken aback by what Mr. Tangaroa had to say. I found the photograph of the semi-final entries for you. Here, it's all yours. Wow, Miss Scone sure knows how to bake a cute cake. Yes, Samson loves her design for that one. And he loved the designs and flavors for Mr. Gusto and Mr. Frost entries too. Only problem was, as Samson mentioned earlier, they tasted exactly the same. However, their respective entries for the final tasted nothing alike, it seems. Was there anything else of note that changed between the semifinal and the final? Nothing major, but I guess there was one thing. Mr. Gusto's son was always here with him throughout the contest, but he was nowhere to be seen during the final. Why would his son come and hang out at a contest venue of all places? You're sure you're happy for us to keep hold of this? Of course, I hope it helps with your investigation. Interesting. Different designs tasting the same. Oh, and I also have the book containing the recipe for the cure Samson mentioned. We've seen this book before. It was in the chocolate frame in Tangaroa's room. That's right. He put it on display there so that everybody could see the grand prize. What? The cure is in the ultimate cookbook? So it's not a book of dessert recipes, I take it. Oh no, we told the contestants, of course. But I guess nobody told you yet. So the contestants all knew what the ultimate cookbook was this whole time. I'd like to hear more about the cookbook if you don't mind, Miss Bound. So if I understand correctly, the ultimate cookbook is actually a collection of recipes for different medicines. Exactly, or rather, totally new medications that haven't made it to the market yet, to be precise. The right buyer, a pharmaceutical company, for example, it would be worth a fortune. But why make that the grand prize in a confectionery contest? Mr. Tangaroa is the sole heir to the Tangaroa family fortune. Perhaps you've heard of the Tangaroa Group.
So that would be delicious and I can actually think about it because people are something
Oh. Ho ho. It's a major pharmaceutical corporation, sells all kinds of pills and poisons. Oh yeah, that new Cold Killer Pro has been making some real waves since it went on sale. I always reach for a cold killer when I'm feeling under the weather. Which is never, as far as I see. I'd like to hear more about the Tangaroa Group if you don't mind. So did Mr. Tangaroa not want to take over for his parents and go into the family business? No, he preferred the idea of making people's lives better through the power of confectionery, and his parents supported him in his quest to become the best in the world. Then, when they passed away, he inherited the cookbook. But why would he make such a valuable heirloom a mere contest prize? He's been hounded by so many people looking to make that book their own. He was tired of it. But it would have been an insult to his parents' memories simply to give it away. So he decided to find somebody he felt was worthy of it. I'll bet the board of directors loved that. Handing over the fruits of all their expensive research to someone else. They hated the idea, of course, which is why Delicia entered the contest. The Tangaroa Group wanted her to win the book back for them. So you knew she was a pharmacist all along. Yes, and not only that, I told her how to appeal to Samson's tastes. I tried to help her win. But why? I wanted to protect Samson by protecting the Tangaroa Group. If that cookbook fell into the other company's hands, the board would never forgive him. So I wanted to find a way to keep it with the company, but in a way that Samson couldn't object to. So that's how Miss Scone managed to make it so far in a contest she had no business taking part in. But Miss Scone wasn't the only one pretending, was she? Mr. Frost wasn't really a confectionery either. I actually have to remind myself since it's been a while. Samson Tangaroa. There we go. Delicia. Well, Delicia's a lot easier. Yes, that's right. Tangaroa. And that's kind of what you were saying. Delicia entered the contest, so the Tangaroa Group could win the book back. And he still made it all the way to the final, just like she did. Not bad. Yes, it's unbelievable, isn't it? Such a talented sculptor, and a gifted crafter of desserts, too. Gifted indeed, judging by the standard of his work in the final. But how did one man produce pieces of that size and quality in such a short period of time? Especially when he said that his art-making ability still needed a lot of work. He needed... he would try to make a dragon, but it was a seahorse and things like that. So I'm not really sure how he made it to the final with the other work we saw. Unless somebody did it on his behalf. But if there's anything else I can help you with, I'd be happy to, of course. You're certainly very keen to ensure that she does all she can for Mr. Tangaroa. Yes. I could certainly use a cup of tea you made us yesterday, if you wouldn't mind. I think that might help move the investigation along nicely. Oh, I'll have some too. Your tea is to die for, Miss Bound. Well, how could I possibly refuse? I'll bring it right out. I think that cheered her up a little. Statues on the fountain depict cherubs enjoying some chocolate fondue. Paul Halik's work, apparently. Gotta hand it to him, they look so real. Detective, are you saying you have personally seen cherubs before? Tisk, attorneys, always poking holes in people's words. What, did I do something wrong? This sign shows which artist's work is on display in which room. From left to right, Mr. Tangaroa, Mr. Gusto, Mr. Scone, Mr. Frost. Incidentally, this sign is also made from candy. What were they going to do with all this candy? Was somebody going to eat it when the contest was over? There's a lyre here, and some maracas designed to look like ice cream cones. They're so well made that it's hard to tell what's candy and what's not just by looking. I'd reach out and touch them, but then I'd be disturbing the crime scene. Hands off, I already checked them out, they're real. Checked them out how, exactly? I didn't touch them, not with my hands at least. Did he? Never mind, I don't want to picture it. It seems these instruments are used on Mr. Tangaroa and Miss Bound's TV show Bacon Bop. There's some of the few things in here that aren't made of candy. It's just me, or does the detective seem a little disappointed? Moment of your time, Eddie? Sure thing, Mr. E, what's up? How are you liking your first crime scene investigation, Eddie? Oh, it's great, I've been taking notes about everything, and I'm learning so much. So you want to be an attorney, huh? You bet I do. I'd give anything to be a hero of justice, to help the helpless and fight for what's right. First time I saw Mr. E do his thing in court, I knew I'd found my calling. You know, cops look out for people, too. Sure, but I want to be an attorney. Well, good luck to ya. I get the feeling Detective Bad might be pining for an apprentice of his own. Do you have any thoughts on the case? Oh, you bet I do. Mr. Tangaroa's amazing display being used to store the body. Scone's beautiful dreamscape being used to store the murder weapon. We're really seeing some beautiful things being used for ugly purposes on this case, huh? I suppose we are. And to make things worse, Miss Bound seems super down. When I asked if you had any thoughts on the case, I was thinking more about useful insights. Oh, sorry, Mr. E. Did I do something wrong? I worry about you sometimes, Eddie. There's a drum set here decorated to look as if it were made out of cakes. Whoops. We must play on Bacon Bop. Detective, about these drums. We already checked, there's nothing inside any of them. And no sign of having been put inside or taken out either. They're not relevant to the case. You've already done your homework, I see. Yeah, I may like lollipops a little too much, but I'm no sucker. Interesting. It's a Christmas tree made of candy. These candy statues have everybody on edge. If ants get in here, that's our scene ruined. Yes, it would be pretty disastrous, I suppose. Excuse me, may I ask what you're investigating? Sir, I'm analyzing the fountain water to see what might be in it, sir. And what did you find? Chocolate and what looks like the kind of flavorings and colorings used in frozen desserts, sir. The composition of the chocolate seems to be the same as that of Mr. Tangaroa's work, and the flavorings and colorings match the profile of those used in Mr. Frost's ice sculptures. Those little rivers flow from all four artists' rooms, right here onto this fountain. I guess that's how the stuff from the melted sculptures wound up in there. And that's not all, sir. We also found blood. What? Why is there blood in the water? Think back to our investigation of the murder scene, Detective. Take another look at the scene in front of us, Detective. A very conspicuous pool of blood that should be here is clearly missing. You're right. Don't remember anybody mentioning they'd removed the blood along with the body. The victim's blood was mysteriously absent, as was the part of the chocolate chest it had pulled from. I believe that the blood probably belonged to Artie Frost, I would assume.
Take that!
The victim, huh? I'll have the guy compare it with the blood on the murder weapon. It's a match. The blood in the fountain is Frost's. Why would someone want to send the victim's blood downstream and into the fountain like this? Yeah. We learned a little more about the contest participants, but there's still one question involving Mr. Gusto, for which we never got an answer. Nothing at all, Mr. Gusto? You went into Mr. Frost's room, didn't you? Perhaps you could tell us why? Sure, I was. Silence, or not to give the attorney even the tiniest shred of information. What was he doing in Mr. Frost's room? And that's not all, I also have questions about the work he submitted for the semifinals. A confectioner who admits to lacking design sense, and a sculptor with it in spades. Mr. Gusto could not have hoped to win in such a high-level contest by himself, which is why I'm beginning to wonder if there was some sort of connection between him and Mr. Frost. Detective, I need to ask Mr. Gusto a few questions. The story still doesn't quite add up for me. Me neither. I need to figure out how to get in touch with him. Oh, do you now? Good luck with that, because I have no intention of allowing it. Mr. Von Karma, I am already in the midst of my own investigation into Gusto. There is no need for the likes of you to pester him with the same questions again. Tisk, tisk, tisk. I will, however, be happy to answer any questions you might have. He seems dead set on preventing me from talking to Mr. Gusto, in which case... Fine, then allow me to take you up on your offer. Very well, what is it? I'd like you to tell me about the connection between Mr. Gusto and Mr. Frost. The connection between Gusto and Frost? It was simply a matter of coincidence. They both happened to be taking part in the same contest.
Yeah, that can't be true.
Yeah, and that's it? Yeah, seriously, 2 lines? That's all I have to say to you. What? But that doesn't help us at all. We'll have to confront him with evidence if we want to draw the truth out of him. And it's imperative that we do. He's clearly hiding something. This?
Objection!
That's it. I wonder if you could look at the 2 confections in the foreground for me, Mr. Von Karma. They were made for the contest semifinals. Both are quite exquisitely crafted, wouldn't you agree? Get to the point. As the nameplate suggests, these were Mr. Gusto and Mr. Frost's entries. Mr. Gusto told us that confectionery design was far from his strong suit, and yet his work in the picture is just as good as Mr. Frost's. Exactly as good, in fact. We learned from another witness that their 2 entries also tasted exactly the same. What are you suggesting? I am suggesting that they were helping one another out. Let's take a closer look, shall we? While at first glance the 2 may appear to be superficially different, it soon becomes apparent that they are significant similarities in how they are put together. Well, yeah, the 2 roses.
Well, even like the 2 other Phoenix is like the same height.
Yeah, that's true. It looks like the mane. The unicorn, the horn looks like it's made from the same material as the beak.
Yeah.
And then the roses... Yeah, Scones is the only one that looks different. So I wonder if Frost and Gusto were both trying to get their hands on that book. And then, of course, Delicious Scone was there to make sure they didn't.
Yeah, but like Delicious Stone is even making either. She uses plastic and shit. Looks like whatever. So, I wonder if her parts of her cake are real.
Yeah. Did they even follow the rules? This picture is proof positive the 2 were working together. If you figured that much out, then I suppose there's little point in denying it. Mr. Von Karma knew all along that they were cooperating. But I'll warn you, none of what you're about to hear will be to your advantage. Let me confirm what you seem so desperate to prove. Gusto and Frost were indeed working together. Gusto spelled out the details of his relationship to Frost during his questioning last night. It seems they were helping one another right up until the day before the final. So, you knew that the two were cooperating. Mr. Von Karma, why are you trying to bury the truth? Please, enough with the petty slander. I merely wanted to avoid you poking your nose around before I could provide proper context in court. It simply slipped my mind to explain that to you. It doesn't explain why he's being so slippery with facts, though. I need to figure out what it is he's hiding. I can't let things end like this.
Hold it!
So you did know there was a connection between the two. Why are you trying to hide it? Tisk, tisk, tisk. I don't just hand out information like candy. It's surely not to the defense. Not like that lollipop nursing fool of a detective over there. You do things your way, and I'll do them mine. And you wonder why I refuse to share information with a traitor like you.
Hold it!
Last night, after Mr. Frost's work melted, correct? Yes, I interviewed Gusto personally. Yeesh, a one-on-one with Mr. Von Karma. That must have been terrifying. I imagine Mr. Gusto probably meditated his way through the difficult parts. He most certainly did not. Every time he closed his eyes, I brought him back with an almighty snap. No one dares to plead the fifth with me. Did that even work on him? And that is how I was able to perfectly learn every last detail of Gusto and Frost's relationship.
Hold
it! But why were they cooperating? Gusto's sense of design is subpar, and Frost was an amateur perfectioner at best. Neither of them stood a chance of making it through the contest alone. So what was their endgame? Why cooperate only until the day before the finals? Gusto claims to have ended the scheme. Allegedly, he wanted to win the final on his own merits. His one and only goal really was to be crowned the world's best confectioner, and his pride would not allow him to do so with the help of another. Cheaters can only ever win hollow victories, I guess. I was under the impression that their collaboration only lasted through the semifinals, but I'm starting to think it might have lasted up through the final itself. Mr. Von Karma, I'd like to ask you some more about how long they worked together for, if you don't mind. If you must.
Hold it!
Before you ask, I'm not objecting to your characterization of Mr. Gusto's design sense. Yeah, he admitted himself he isn't all that great. He made what he alleged to be a likeness of me. Just thinking of the abomination he came out with turns my stomach. Yeah, kinda like the guy's work. An artistically rich amateur and an artistically impoverished professional. In a way, it was inevitable that they would wind up working together.
Hold it!
You really believe that they were cooperating until the day before the finals, and then they just simply stopped? It seems a little strange to me, wouldn't you agree? I have told you the truth. Whether you find it strange or not is none of my concern. He was concerned enough to try to hide it from me only a few minutes ago, though. Which means there must have been a reason for that. Based on Mr. Tangaroa's assessment, it sounds as if Mr. Frost's entry for the final was the clear winner. Which means he must have still been working with Mr. Gusto, right? That's precisely what I was thinking. Must have some evidence that proves they were cooperating right up through the finals. Alright, let's go to that last one.
Hold it!
Oh, whoops. Sorry. The Ultimate Cookbook. I wonder if it has to do with the cookbook. But try it.
Objection!
And the music continues. Those are the semifinals.
Oh, that mistake that he says the liar is salty, instead of the sabotaging.
What about this? I don't think so, but you know, what the hell.
Objection!
And good thing it wasn't up to me. They weren't working together during the finals. I find that a little hard to believe. Miss Scone is on the record of having described Mr. Frost's creations as scrumptious. While he was certainly skilled, I doubt even he could have become a world-class confectioner overnight. During songs. How many times must one person's entirely subjective statement is not proof of anything? Besides, even amateurs can occasionally make delicious food. Perhaps Frost was simply lucky. My wife, for example, is an amateur whose cooking puts first-class chefs to shame. How is that not an entirely subjective statement? Furthermore, you are ignoring another crucial part of the pharmacist's testimony, namely that she also describes some of Frost's work as being unbearably salty. In other words, your evidence actually shows that Frost failed to produce the perfect confectionery. Yeah, good. Tisk, tisk, tisk. No more objections, I take it? There must be some way I can prove that Gusto and Frost were still collaborating. Mr. E, there's something that's been on my mind. Yes? What is it, Eddie? Mr. Frost's entry for the finals. Wouldn't it have taken a while to make? I would imagine so. Making flavored water, freezing it all, and then carving the two holy sculptures? Did he really have done all that and help Mr. Gusto with his work? If it was me, I'd have barely gotten as far as the setting the flavored water up to freeze part. I just can't see how Mr. Frost could have pulled it off. Perhaps there's some lawyerly instinct in you after all, Eddie. Pondering certainly proved to point to another possibility. Eddie's right. Mr. Frost would have needed to freeze his own large blocks of flavored ice to create his art, and there wouldn't have been time to do that during the contest itself. So what must Mr. Frost have done in order to finish his flavored ice entry within the time limit? Make the ice the day before the final, make the ice the day of the final, make it out of something else entirely.
Yeah, something entirely or the day before.
That's what I would think. Let's go with something else entirely. Maybe it wasn't made out of flavored ice at all. This doesn't seem good. So I guess the day before? Must have made the flavored ice the day before. Then all he would have had to do was sculpt it. What are you muttering about now? Oh, I'm sorry, I just realized something, that's all. I realized that you're correct. What? Mr. E? I hope you know what you're doing. Oh, accepting defeat at last, are we? Yeah, the only thing I'm accepting is that perhaps one of the things you said was true. They were helping one another right up until the day before the final. Just as you said, the day before the final really did mark the end of their collaboration. Mr. Frost's entry was carved entirely from blocks of flavored ice. Ice which would have needed at least a day to freeze, and whose flavors would therefore have already been prepared by Mr. Gusto. Yes, which lines up perfectly with what Gusto told me, that he helped Frost until the day before the final. In that case, why didn't Mr. Frost reciprocate and help Mr. Gusto in return? I can hardly be expected to read the minds of the dead. Perhaps not, but I imagine Mr. Gusto could tell us, so why don't you let us speak with him? Or do you still insist your interrogation was as thorough as you claim? How dare you call my methods into question? That's not my intention, I just don't understand why you would obstruct a perfectly valid line of inquiry. Give me one good reason as to why you're keeping Mr. Gusto from me. One good reason, certainly. The how and why of Frost and Gusto's collaboration has absolutely no bearing on this case. How can you possibly say that with any certainty? Their relationship had broken down for some reason that could very well have been the motive behind his murder. Could it indeed? Then why did Gusto himself tell me all about it? Why did the man you seem so keen on accusing share the details of his collaboration with the prosecution? Please tell me you have some proof to back up your preposterous suspicions this time. Mr. Gusto only acted suspiciously one time that we know of. I imagine Mr. Von Karma is aware of exactly what that suspicious action was, which means this is probably a trap. Well, cat got your tongue? But even if this is a trap, I can't back down now. Mr. Gusto snuck into Mr. Frost's room and we still don't know why. That fact alone is reason enough to suspect him. Tisk, tisk, tisk. If that's your only concern, then allow me to clear it up for you. I knew it. It was a trap. I was saving this for the trial, but consider it a taste of things to come. Plus, I'd hate for the proceedings to drag on because of your needless objections. Here, take a look at this. That's Gusto and Frost and their sons.
Why do the parents not look happy? Kids look happy.
Yeah, kids look great. Frost looks upset.
Well, he's looking, yeah, Gusto's looking away.
Gusto snuck into Frost's room in order to retrieve this photograph. But why? It seems their sons attended the same elementary school. Gusto was concerned that the fact that Mr. Frost and his acquaintance might place him under undue suspicion. A concern that you have just proved was entirely well-founded. Yeah. Gusto's actions make perfect sense, and you have given me no reason to believe otherwise. Ugh! He's never going to let me talk to Mr. Gusto. Now, if you are quite done obstructing my investigation, I have things to be getting on with. That smug, self-righteous jerk. I'll give him someone to be getting on with. What do we do, Mr. E? Mr. Tangaroa is finished if we can't figure something out. Things to be getting on with. What exactly could those things be? He has a body, a murder weapon, and a suspect in custody. If the prosecution means to pursue Mr. Tangaroa, surely they have all they need. So why is Mr. Von Karma still investigating the scene of the crime? Something on your mind, Mr. E? We're missing something important. Mr. Von Karma has everything he needs to proceed with the prosecution of Mr. Tangaroa, and yet he still doesn't seem entirely confident in his case. If he was, why refuse to share information with Detective Bad? Who else? Haven't seen the autopsy report yet. The guy's probably got a hand in that, too. In addition, we still haven't solved the mystery of what happened to the evidence that went missing. Take another look at the scene in front of us, Detective. A very conspicuous pool of blood that should be here is clearly missing. You're right, don't remember anybody mentioning they'd removed the blood from his body. Evidence that turned up not in Mr. Tangaroa's room, but in a most unusual place. So there were no traces of Mr. Frost's blood left in Mr. Tangaroa's room, yet we found some in the fountain instead. Why? And there's still no autopsy report. I mean, my gut instinct would be the missing victim's blood and the blood in the fountain have a connection.
Right.
So let's go with it. Mr. Frost's blood went missing from the crime scene, but traces of it showed up in the fountain. Why go to the trouble of removing the blood from the scene after the body had been discovered? And why only the blood? Surely the body would have also been in the way. Wait, could somebody have moved the body aside to get to the blood? There's only two left. So the body might have been moved aside or even removed from the scene of the crime entirely. After all, as far as we know, there's still no autopsy report. And his son will learn how to update it in real time during the trial. We've learned plenty about the murder weapon and the suspect, but very little about the body itself. Our assumption thus far has been that the body had been recovered by the forensics team. What if that assumption is false? What if Mr. Von Karma wouldn't show Detective Bad the autopsy report out of something other than spite? What if we've been thinking about this the wrong way around all along? The question isn't why did Mr. Von Karma hold back information about the body. It's didn't Mr. Von Karma even have information about the body in the first place? How do things look from that angle? Perhaps the body hadn't been removed by the police in order to carry out an autopsy. Perhaps it had already been moved or hidden away by the culprit before their arrival. Mr. E, we both heard the rumors about Mr. Von Karma's questionable methods. Fabricated witness statements, shady deals, forged evidence even. Sure, everybody's heard of that stuff, but what's that got to do with us right now? I would never judge a person on the basis of rumors alone. Even Mr. Von Karma, I've tried my best not to let my preconceptions color our interactions with him. Nonetheless, it appears he may indeed be willing to twist the truth to his own ends. Twist the truth? You mean he's been playing dirty? I fear he might have been, and still is, and I'm not about to let him get away with it. I'm returning to the prosecutor's office. Don't breathe a word about anything to that infernal attorney. Yes, sir.
Hold it!
Yes, what is it now? I have a few questions, Mr. Von Karma, about a certain fact you've been keeping from us. Really? You mean to call the methods of an officially sanctioned investigation into question yet again? I'm warning you, if you obstruct the police in their work any further, there will be consequences. It's not the police I have an issue with, Mr. Von Karma, it's you. What? Isn't it on the prosecution to work out who the real culprit of the crime is? What foolishness is this? I have no intention of debating what the prosecution's role is or is not for the likes of you. Let me make one thing clear. My job is to identify suspects and ensure that every last one of them is convicted at all costs. Believe me when I say I leave absolutely no room for doubt when I present my perfect, unassailable cases. And how far would you go for your perfect cases? Would you create facts out of the whole cloth, perhaps? Ah, and I thought you had outdone yourself already. And now you intend to accuse me of fabricating evidence? I do. Because it is why you've done nothing but hinder Detective Bad from doing his job at every turn. What are you talking about? You didn't shut him out of the investigation because you wanted him to keep an eye on us. You did it to stop him from finding out that you don't have the body. What? He doesn't have the body? Ridiculous, you're clutching at straws. I will tolerate no more of your preposterous slander. Then allow us to examine it. Prove me wrong if you can. Tis, 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 I'm afraid you'll have to try a little harder than that. I am under no obligation whatsoever to prove the baseless accusations one way or another. As you must have seen for yourself, a piece of bloodied chocolate is missing from the scene of the crime. Why did it disappear, and where did it go? Why does it matter? Some blood went missing from the chest where the body was found, so what? So what indeed? That's precisely my question. If the body was still at the scene when the police got here, removing the blood would accomplish nothing. However, let us suppose for a moment the body was not. If someone had wanted to erase any trace of what had happened in that room, then it all makes perfect sense. What is this petty obsession with the bloodstain? But since it's so important to you, why don't you tell me where you believe it went? Of course, after all, evidence is everything, as you never tire of telling us. I believe this should back up my theory quite nicely. What evidence do I have that shows where the blood from Mr. Tangaroa's room went?
Oh.
No. We got a salt lamp that's stained with the blood. Well, Here we go. Frost's blood was found in the fountain when out of the scene of the crime.
Take that!
Yeah, that worked. Traces of the victim's blood were found in the fountain, along with traces of the chocolate from Mr. Tangaroa's room. I believe the missing piece of blood-stained chocolate was dumped into the stream that flows to the fountain, which strongly points toward one certain fact. Someone purposefully disposed of the blood after the body had been removed from the chest. Mr. Von Karma, where did you find the body? You didn't find it, did you? Answer me. You, where did you get your hands on that kind of evidence? You have neither the authority nor the means to carry out that kind of analysis of fountain water. No, but I do. Curse you, Bad. You've been a thorn in my side from the moment you were assigned. Well, no longer. As of now, you are officially off the case. I was barely on it in the first place. Mr. Von Karma, you still haven't answered my question. Will you admit it? Will you confirm that no body was ever recovered? Tisk, tisk, tisk. It's really quite the claim, you know. One that you'll never find any proof for, I'm afraid. What must I do to get an answer out of him? Now, if you don't mind, I have given you quite enough of my precious time already. I look forward to destroying you in court, Gregory Edgeworth. Your precious logic and theories won't save you then. Nothing will. Mark my words, Mr. Von Karma, your methods will be your undoing. No matter how you try to hide the truth, I'll bring it all to light in the end. Forgive me, Detective. I didn't mean to put you in a difficult position. Don't sweat it. It was always going to end this way. Honestly, nobody's ever sidelined me the way he did before. First time for everything, huh? You know, I think you might be right about the body being missing. I am, and I'll prove it in court. Heh. Well, if there's anything I can do to help, just say the word. Yeah. Since you know I'm off the case now. It's very kind, and I'm sorry to keep asking favors of you, Detective Bad, but there is one more thing. Hey, what are you guys whispering about? Come on, let me in on the secret. Alright, Eddie, the detective and I were just arranging a little insurance for the trial. I think we have enough to see Mr. Tangaroa acquitted, but I'd prefer to have an ace in the hole just in case. And what is it? Heh. You'll find out in the courtroom. Wait, what? You're letting me join you? Of course I am. You are my assistant after all. Hell, I'll be more than that by next year. I'll be a full-fledged attorney, you know. We can take on Mr. Von Karma together. Indeed. Though I'm hoping we'll have freed Mr. Tangaroa by then. But if we were up against Mr. Von Karma, I guess we can't rule out the possibility that this might take some time. Right, but we'll do everything we can in the meantime. I know you can be Mr. Von Karma, Mr. E. I believe in you. We can't allow Mr. Tangaroa to remain in prison for a crime he didn't commit. And we won't. I'll expose Mr. Von Karma's lies if it's the last thing I do. So this presumably would be the case that broke Von Karma's streak. And that's pretty much how things went down. Those are the facts of IS-7 as far as I'm concerned. I'm finally learning the truth about my father's last case. Yeah, that would be it. So what happened at the trial? Well, we lost. Von Karma did a real number on us. Oh, never mind. Really? You couldn't prove that Mr. Tangaroa was innocent? Oh, we could prove it all right. A decent little pile of evidence in our favor. The problem was we underestimated Von Karma. He fought even dirtier than we feared. You can imagine, secure a conviction at all costs. That was always his guiding principle. Yeah, ain't that the truth. Anywho, the trial dragged on and on. The whole thing took about a year in the end. I'll never forget the day the verdict came down, December 28th that following year. It's April now, so... Mama, we're talking over 17 years ago. Time sure does fly, huh? December 28th. I was there that day 17 years ago, sitting in the courtroom gallery. Just before the trial got started, Gregory noticed that Samson was looking even worse than usual. Turns out the poor guy had finally reached his limit. It was so bad. He even said he wanted to be found guilty. Wait, you mean they forced a confession out of him? Yeah, Von Karma got what he'd been pushing for from the very beginning. And when Gregory tried to drop the bombshell about there being no body to speak of, he learned that Von Karma had used the power of the police to head him off at the pass. He even had himself a fake autopsy report. But that wasn't the end of it. Von Karma had gotten Samson to falsely testify against himself to being an accessory to murder in court. Combined with his confession, the poor guy's goose was well and truly cooked. But Gregory still had his ace in the hole, though. The same ace he had asked Detective Bad to help him with. Exactamundo. He knew he needed one last card to play if they squeezed the confession out of Samson. And so he had Bad record all of Samson's interrogations. I guess Detective Bad really wanted to know the truth too, huh? We all did, but he was a trooper, stayed with the case even after Von Karma took him off of it. He was tied up in some other big case too. Good old Bad. They don't make him like that anymore. Anyway, Gregory presented the recordings as proof that Samson's confession was coerced. And you know what? It almost worked. A cop named Ian Seidman got fired. Samson's interrogator and the initial detective before Bad. They took the fall for pretty much the whole thing. But Von Karma didn't get away scot-free. In fact, he was disciplined by the chief prosecutor for the one and only time in his 44-year career. Ah, that's what happened. Still, Samson himself couldn't stomach another day in court. So when that guilty verdict came down, he didn't just signal the end of that day, but of the whole sad affair. I don't remember a lot myself. My father's face when they declared Mr. Tinkerillo guilty. I was a young child at the time, but even I could tell how much he was hurting inside. Gregory wanted to appeal the ruling, of course. He would have done anything to clear Samson's name. But then, well, you know what happened next. Poor guy, he never got the chance. I should have left with him that day. I'll always blame myself for not doing that. But I shoved that aside and obsessed over something else instead. Or rather, someone else. I hated what you did. Hated you for choosing to stick with Von Karma. I hope you can forgive me. Now, you had every right to hate me. I went on to become a prosecutor as planned, and that's when Mr. Von Karma showed me this case file. According to those records, Mr. Tangarella was convicted as the main culprit in Mr. Frost's murder. Nope, that's not right. Samson was convicted as an accessory to murder. Strange. The file clearly states that he was the perpetrator. Plus, I'm fairly certain that all of Mr. Von Karma's cases were successfully solved. Mind if I take a peek at those? This file's been doctored. The part about the verdict, it's been changed. What? Here, feast your peepers on this. Convicted as an accomplice. That's a copy of the file they have on record at the courthouse. Why is my copy so different? Well, you said it came from Von Karma, yeah? I guess as he didn't want Gregory's son thinking there was a murderer still at large. Didn't want you looking into it again before the statute of limitations was up. So everything I believed about the case was a lie. Like they say, we all gotta start somewhere. What's important is you know what's what now. The statute of limitations, I think it's the statute it's supposed to be of limitations, may have run out, but the truth's still out there, you know? I inherited Samson's case when the old man passed. The prosecution handed it off. Wasn't going to bother facing off against a rookie like me, was he? Anyway, long story short, the killer was never found, and Samson was found guilty instead. That's terrible. Is there really nothing we can do to help him? It had been handed down, but Von Karma had threatened Samson and made him a deal. Told him if he didn't confess, he'd make sure Judy was convicted instead. How could he? Samson knew there was no way Judy could have done it, of course. But he wasn't going to take any chances, so he did what he was told and confessed to keep her safe. Now riddle me this, Milesy boy. Why do you think your Uncle Eddie just happened to be in the prison the day Bronco Knight died? Ah, that's right. You were there to see Mr. Tangaroa. Bingo. Judy and I both promised we'd visit him every day. I didn't quite keep that promise. But Judy did. She never missed one visit in all these years. Come rain or shine, she always showed up. But none of that changes the fact that Samson is still being unduly punished day after day. How heartbreaking. We've got to do something, Mr. Fender. Well, kiddo, that's actually why we came here. The ice sculptures are back on display, just like they were all those years ago. And we're going to see what we can find out. Right, Malserino? Prosecutor Fender, I don't look at these things in the same way as you or my father. Miles, that doesn't matter right now. Speaking not as a prosecutor, but as Miles Edgeworth, I want to know the truth behind both of these cases, and I'm not leaving until I do. Heh, you really are old Gregory's son through and through. Alrighty then, now that that's sorted, we can really get to it. Good thing I brought the IS-7 case file and evidence with me today, huh? Here, documents first. Who doesn't love paperwork, am I right? The part in red ink are my annotations. Thank you, Fender. Let's see what I'm Here's some evidence for you. Enjoy. Oh, there we go. Take a look at them in a bit. There's the Ultimate Cookbook. Frame finger marks. The salt lamp with the blood. Family photo. Weapon rock salt lamp, prosecutor man from Ring Karma. Organizer of confectionery contest. Victim's body was found inside one of his creations, leading to his arrest. While in detention, Tangaroa discovered that he had a taste disorder, which was subsequently cured via medication. Convicted as an accomplice based on his confession. Artie Frost, known as Paul Halique, under which name he was a renowned sculptor in France, contestant in the confectionery contest. Body was discovered in Tangaroa's room. Cause of death was blood loss following a blow to the head. No detailed autopsy report due to the body going missing. You know, our current case is just full of loose threads, too, come to think of it. Indeed. The key players of that incident 18 years ago who just happened to get caught up in another incident. The ice sculptures in the Winter Wing that are perfect replicas of the ones from 18 years ago. The poison gas attack in the Autumn Wing, which has been disguised to look like the Winter Wing. The two chemicals that were found inside the Pisces statue display case, ubiquium and asphyxium, that form a poisonous gas when mixed together. The victim of the gas attack, Carmelo Gusto, who is no stranger to the events of 18 years ago. He was still unconscious and undergoing treatment in the medical room. And finally, we come to the body floating face down in the fountain.
Right.
Yeah, that'd be kind of crazy.
You can't find it unless someone fakes their death. And somebody killed them
So many questions, yeah. And I still don't really know exactly what happened and who did it. I know there's only like a couple suspects it could be. We think it's the girl, apparently.
Well, maybe they were charging the sex to charge her. Or no one's really dead. She killed him now.
Makes me wonder.
Objection!
Investigating.
Ah,
Oh, no, you don't. Aren't you forgetting somebody? I could have sworn this is my investigation. Eustace is quite right. I do hope you aren't intending to obstruct him in his duties, Mr. Edgeworth. I would hate to have to add a guilty to my report to the committee. What am I guilty of now? Of course not. I am simply offering once again to do what I can to help with this investigation. Your offer is duly noted and duly declined. Oof, she isn't pulling any punches. The identity of the body from the fountain is currently being ascertained. It is only a matter of time until we have all the information we need. Perhaps I can help you speed that process along. I think I have an idea who our mystery victim might be. What? Really? Then you have to tell me. It's the law. Very well. Maybe it isn't just the ice sculptures that have resurfaced after 18 years. The body in the fountain may also be a visit from the past.
Take that!
I believe the body in the fountain is that of the man who was murdered here 18 years ago, Mr. Artie Frost. What? You're saying that was poor Chillywinks? Wait, who the heck is Chillywinks, or Artie, or whoever it is you're talking about? Artie Frost was a famous sculptor, Eustace, although he was better known as Paul Philippe. The sculptors on display here are all his works. No way! Sounds like he did well for himself. Always good to encounter a fellow winner. Mr. Frost was also the victim in the IS-7 incident. Judge Gavelle knows about the IS-7 incident. Mr. Edgeworth, the IS-7 incident is an 18-year-old case, and according to police records, the victim's body was recovered and an autopsy duly carried out. Sure, that's what the records say, but the records can't always be trusted. What are you insinuating? While the records say stuff like body totally recovered, the defense back then begged to differ. Not that it stopped the prosecution from shutting them down hard, of course. Yeah, this is Winter. What? Really? What is it, Eustace? The body. We've got an ID. Some sculptor named Frost or something. So I guess Edgeworth called it? Goddess Justice. So my father's deductions were right all along. Well, Judge Gavelle, I'd say this changes things, wouldn't you? Perhaps now you'll admit that I might be of use to this case, more than a certain junior prosecutor, anyway. No fair. You're trying to steal the win. I'm doing no such thing. All I want is to uncover the truth. If we're going to get to the bottom of what happened here, we'll need to work together. You do not need to do anything. You do not need to know the truth. This case is none of your concern. Jeez.
Objection!
Hello there, Judge G. I think you might be wrong about that. Another of your interruptions, Mr. Fender? Yep, see, I was on the defense team for IS-7, so this case is very much my concern. I was one of those pesky kids pushing the theory that the body had actually gone missing. The prosecutor at the time may have brushed us off, but you can't deny the testimony of your eyes. Or to put it a little more bluntly, the prosecution's case was rotten from the ground up. When there's been a miscarriage of justice caused by the prosecution, it's the committee's job to fix it, no? You better to help you unpick the mess than somebody who was there at the time. Unless you have an ulterior motive. Judge Gavelle seems to know the facts of the IS-7 incident in some detail, in which case I suspect she must be here on the committee's behalf. Your connection to the case is noted, Mr. Fender, but I fail to see how it concerns Mr. Edgeworth. He's the son of the original defense attorney and the protege of the case's lead prosecutor. And if that's not enough for you, he was at the trial too. I think it's just possible he might have a little something to bring to the table, don't you? Very well, you may both assist in the investigation. No Fender. Only if you refrain from interfering with the work of others. The Winter Wing is off limits for now. This room, however, is all yours. Alrighty, great to hear we're on the same wavelength, G. Why don't we bring it in, to show we're all on the same side of justice. Do not test me, Mr. Fender. Your permission to investigate can be revoked at any time. Duly noted, Your Honor. This is a turn-up for the books, huh, Milesy? We get to do our thing after all. Thanks to your immeasurable help as always. Head, no sweat. Besides, I was mostly doing it for me. Okay, I'll be investigating my own thing, so just holler if you find something interesting. I will. Well, okay, shall we? Heck yeah, let the investigation commence. We're still unclear on two key facts. How Mr. Frost's body came to be where we found it, and the source of the Ubiquium. You're right, we need some more intel. Indeed, let's focus on the Ubiquium first and foremost. It's used in stuff like dish soap and paint, right? Correct, it's also bright red in color and has a distinctive minty fragrance. Okay, sounds like we know what we're looking for. Yay. I don't know. Still investigating away, are you? Found anything interesting? No, dearie. Well, not much anyway. Silly girl, this wasn't a dearie moment. This was more of a lambkin. Sweetheart is for when you're busy being sympathetic, of course. Treasure is for when you're in a tiz. Love is for people you're not that keen on. And Petal you use when you're trying to get someone's attention. Wow, I didn't realize there were so many rules. Mr. Edgeworth, Petal. I hope you're getting all this down. Don't even try, Kay. Oh, dearie me. Body's been taken back to the lab, sir. Autopsy's underway. And how's the rest of the fountain looking? Rather beautiful, actually, sir. The water's crystal clear and kind of soothing. Almost as if there wasn't a body floating in it not so long ago. Miss Bound's tea set is laid out neatly on the serving cart. The pamphlet says the gallery is famous for its tea. Understandably so. The cup we were given was delicious. Looks like all of this stuff was designed by Mr. Frost. Interesting. In this case, I think we'd better take a closer look. A caddy containing Salem, he believes? It's a well-crafted tin canister designed to prevent moisture and sunlight from damaging its contents. Not a bad thing to use considering the quality of the blend Miss Bound serves. Whoops. So this dishware was made by Artie Frost. It looks quite fancy. Oh, it is. I'm willing to bet this set can fetch something in the thousands of dollars. So let's try not to touch any of it unless we absolutely have to. Wow, this stuff's really worth that much? Stop it, Kay. I can see your eyes lighting up. Miss Bound must really be a fan of Mr. Frost like Fender said to still have this. Hey, Edgy, what is it? You better be careful with that teapot, you hear? Why is Larry so concerned all of a sudden? Honored guests. I can pour you a cup if you like. Miss Bound? Ah, Judy. I'm good, thanks. No tea for me. You two knock yourselves out. Thank you for the offer. Yes, why not? A quick break won't hurt. 2 cups coming right up. Just let her hair drown out. This smells great. Wow, it even tastes better than it smells. What type of tea is this, Mr. Edgeworth? It's Salem, I believe. It's usually identifiable by its citrus aroma, but... Miss Bound, is this the same blend you served this morning? Why, yes. Is it alright? There isn't anything wrong with it, is there? Oh no, not at all. Except that the cup you gave me earlier had a slightly different aroma. Really, that's odd. I used the exact same blend both times. I can't see what could account for the difference. And what's the big idea? Quit being mean about Judy's tea, will you? What's gotten under your skin, Larry? Nothing. You're just rude, that's all. Don't even try to call me by the right name. It's Larice Dunim, dang it. You know what? I'm done. I'm not talking to you anymore. Well, that was childish, even for him. Wow, what happened there? Let's ask him about it later, shall we? Talking to Miss Bound is more of a priority right now. We may not have any evidence to prove that she's the culprit. But it does seem likely that the poison gas was her doing. I don't think you've gotten away with anything, Mr. Edgeworth. I'll be reporting your actions to the committee. Do whatever you need to, Judge Cavell, and we'll do the same. You're the self-styled great thief, correct? Mr. Edgeworth's association with such a character will be of interest to the committee too, of course. Go ahead and report me to your stupid committee. I'll be the toast of the thieving community. It looks like Judge Cavell will have to think up some new threats if she wants to intimidate Kay. Where were you before you rejoined us here, Miss Bound? I had to go and tell our visitors were closed. Oh, and hand out a little something in apology. Was there something you wanted me to talk about? Yes, a few things, actually. Not least of all, the fact that I think you might be the one who set the poison gas trap. The original ice sculptures melted 18 years ago, correct? How did you manage to recreate them? Oh, you know what happened back then? In that case, you might also know I took pictures of them during the contest. I commissioned the creation of a set of replicas based on those photographs for this current exhibit. But why go through the trouble of creating replicas? Mr. Frost's Zodiac series was his great unfinished masterwork. I wanted to see it completed at last. Or rather, recompleted. It was my fault that the original set melted in the first place, after all. I see. And is there any particular reason why the winter and autumn wings look so similar? Oh my, you really think they look alike? Perhaps I used some of the decorations from one in the other by accident. It's clearly lying, but I don't have the evidence to prove it just yet. So what? Have I inadvertently stumbled onto the set of Kate Crimes the Musical or something? I thought asking her about that would have been... Well, I'm trying to present some stuff to her. Figure something out, but... This is so cute. What kinds of pharmaceutical recipes are in the Ultimate Cookbook? Oh, there are so many, it would take a while to go through them all. But if you really want to know, well then let's start the show. Come join me as we sing this song. It's a nifty, thrifty 2 hours long. Now one by one we'll sing the things that the world's best little cookbook brings. What do you think, Mr. Edgeworth? Want to listen to the rest? No, that won't be necessary. You were a very successful actress, Miss Bound. Why did you decide to become a gallery owner? You know, the two things don't feel all that different to me. Movies, musicals, confectionery, sculptures, art, they're all the same, really. They all have the same aim in mind. To evoke an emotional response. That's what all artists strive for. So is that what Loris is striving for? Laurice is striving for? Let's get one thing straight. Try as Larry might, a fancy name does not an artist make. From the color and aroma, I'd say this is a puddle of spilled tea. And look, there's a small chunk of ceramic in it. I guess somebody must have broke something. I know that insignia. And a certain high-strung somebody just might know a little something, too. Ah. Oh, never mind. Hey there, Maserino. What's the situation with the investigation? Things are progressing. I think a fuller picture of what happened is beginning to emerge. Good to hear. Guess I better step up my game too, then. This case seems to have a lot in common with the incident from 18 years ago. And how? It's got the lot. Melting statues in the Winter Wing, and even the murder victim's body. But how did nobody ever figure out the body had gone missing? Frost had no family apart from his son. And, well, the kid kind of vanished. Nobody's seen him since around the time of the incident. Gusto's son, too. Him and his best pal from school both just up and disappeared. What? They were never found? Gusto's boy wasn't, not as far as I heard anyhow. Guessed Frost's kid turned up in the end, though. He collected his inheritance at some point. But yeah, with no family around just after the incident, Frost got no funeral, no nothing. So no need for the police to release the body, and no need for anybody to find out who didn't have it. They filed their fake autopsy report, and nobody was any the wiser. Well, almost nobody. I still can't believe Mr. Von Karma would have stooped so low. I'm going to keep this simple, Larry. You're hiding something, so just tell me what it is. Whoa, quit it with the glare off, you two. It's weird. Oh, come on, Kay. You know me better than that. I wasn't